Welcome to Let's Talk Money, Honey, the podcast where we break down the barriers to financial success.
I'm Elise Levy here with Holly Henry, and we're your hosts, two financial advisors on a mission to demystify investing, unravel the complexities of money, and sprinkle a little wisdom into your life.
Whether you're a seasoned investor or just dipping your toes into the world of finance, join us once a month as we discuss how to navigate life's financial twists and turns. Just remember, building wealth and living your best life should be empowering, not intimidating.
So listen up and let's talk money, honey. Hi, Holly. Welcome to our first episode ever of our new podcast, Let's Talk Money, Honey. How crazy is that?
Oh, I am so excited. This has been a day that I've been looking forward to just finally get this kicked off.
Well, and I feel like we started the webinars last year or this year, 2023, and just have learned so much and are so inspired by the topic that we just had to make it bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. You know, our goal was just to set out to help the women around us, and we realized quickly that there was a lot of women that are needing help, and we are here just to provide more information and to be a resource however we can. So this is how this podcast was created.
Yes, and for our first podcast of January, we thought what better to talk about than resolutions, but also reflections on the past year, because we can't move forward unless we learn from the past, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I hope everyone has had a much calmer year than I have. You know, 2023, I mean, it's not as bad as 2020, but it's still been it's been a year.
Yeah, and my year was filled with lots of good things, but even that sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted.
Yes. Yes. So start us off, Elise, and give us a recap of what your year has been like. You have had a lot of big things happen.
Yes. We'll do personally. We'll make it a little personal first. So personally, the big two milestones was my husband and I, we bought a house, our first one together, and then we also got married. So big changes.
Very exciting change.
Yeah. And meanwhile, trying to, as you know, grow a business from the ground up. So it's been very busy around here. And I think our business is so interesting because you're selling basically yourself. So in those first couple of years, when you do face a lot of rejection, it's hard not to take it personally. And I think the first half of the year, I was really struggling. And I was like, do I even want to do this? Am I good at this? And that was a big question I kept asking myself. I'm like, am I good at this? And then I think I just had a couple really good new clients come on and just saw my value in their life and what I could give to them as a financial advisor. And I realized I do want to do this and I am good at it. And, you know, we've talked about this a bunch, but a big part of our job is helping people. And I think that's why both of us wanted to do this at first. And it's why I keep going to work every day because, you know, it is in a lot of ways, you're just helping people at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely. So when I reflect over 2023, for those of you that may not know me, my story right now is like opposite of Alicia's marriage and buying a house. I went through a divorce in end of 2022. So a lot of my 2023 was just trying to find balance, just trying to continue to start over and
Mm-hmm.
stand on my own 2 feet. And yeah, I can say that I did that, but I fell down several times. Just it's a lot. It's a lot as a single mom. My focus right now is on my wonderful 2 kids. They are absolutely amazing. Um, I stay busy all the time going to their sporting events. My daughter is huge in gymnastics, and my son plays baseball and basketball and anything that I allow him to do. So when I reflect over my finances, I can tell you straight up that kids suck all the money and the life out of you. Like I don't have to guess where my money's going. It's going to school lunches and just toting them around everywhere. And my daughter has discovered Sheen. And so And I've had to take that off of her app because somehow she was able to get my credit card and, she knows to buy now, and I was getting Shein orders on a regular basis. I mean, she's more of a Shein addict than I am an Amazon addict. Like, I don't think that there was a day there for a while between Amazon and Shein we weren't having these deliveries. Um,
That's awesome.
so from a financial perspective, I know where my money's going.
Yeah. What
From a
about just with work? How have you been feeling this year?
Okay, so again, for those of you that may not know me, I own a couple of small businesses, and so I own cabin rentals and storage units, but I spend the majority of my time as a financial advisor these days. And it's hard as a new financial advisor, like what you mentioned. I mean, it's you come in and it doesn't matter sometimes the knowledge that you know. It's almost like just an uphill battle to be able to just go and be able to sit in front of someone.
Yeah.
And so again, there's a lot of rejection to it, and especially it's easy to just get down. And I find it easier sometimes to stay down than to just fight to continue to get up. It's easier to just walk away. And I'm not saying that I don't have my moments where I just throw up my hands and just say I'm done for the day. Um, but then I'll get whatever motivational music I have to do, or read whatever I need to do to just keep me going. I mean, the thing that keeps me going is my clients. I
Yeah.
have such wonderful relationships with them. I don't even want to call them my clients. A lot of them I would consider friends. One thing about financial advisors is you really do life with these people. Most of the time, people need financial advisors in the midst of a crisis.
Yeah.
And so it is a death of a family, it's a divorce. There are happy moments like a marriage where you're wanting to get your finances in order, and or even a 529 college savings plan when you're planning for your kids' college. There are happy moments, but a lot of times, and for me personally, and Elise, I know you've heard this story, but when I realized that I needed to file for the divorce, one of my first things was like, I need a financial advisor. Like,
Mhm.
I need to talk to someone right now. And then my second thought was, well, crap, I am a financial advisor. Like, I should be able to know what to do. But in those really emotional moments, whether it be divorce or death, because I do think that a death of a family member, like death can bring out the worst in people. So you have family members just fighting, and
Yeah.
we're put in very, very hard situations at times. And so it's important to have these relationships with a financial advisor already established so you know who to call. So even though I was a financial advisor, when I faced divorce, I immediately picked up the phone and called my managing advisor just to find out what I needed to do because I was not in the right mind to make those decisions myself.
Absolutely. And I think too, just what you were saying, not even when someone else dies, but thinking about your own death. And I know that sounds really morbid, but it's a reality. Thinking about your own death and planning for it and getting the things in line, what you're doing is you're creating peace of mind for the people you leave behind. And I think that's so important because there are so many situations Holly and I face where beneficiaries haven't been named or beneficiaries have already passed away. And I have a client right now that unfortunately has to go through probate because their child passed before them and hadn't set up anything. And it's a huge headache. And so not only you're grieving, but you're having to do this huge headache process. And it can all be avoided if you're proactive and you set up everything in place. So that's like a big thing that I think Holly and I really help our clients with is getting all the names, all of the, your trust, whatever needs to be in place so that when you do pass, it's just going to be as simple as your beneficiaries walking into our office with a death certificate.
Absolutely, and this is something that we can spend, and we plan on actually spending.
Yeah. Not to dive into a topic, but
Um, but this is such an important topic, and you will also find out in the midst of these conversations with Elise and I that we're very human. So I can tell you that I sit in front of my clients every time I meet with them, and I go, are your beneficiaries up to date? Let's discuss them. Are your PODs on your bank account up to date? Do you need a trust? Do you have a will? Is all of this in order? And let me tell you, this past week, I was talking to someone at the Union Bank, and they're like, by the way, you don't even have a POD on this account. And I just thought, how did this just
Do
happen?
as we say, not as we do. Okay?
Yes. And so I can easily attest how easy it is to overlook. Life happens, and it is our job to be there as almost your accountability partner to
Mhm.
remind you you've got to get this in order, because the last thing that I would have wanted to happen is for something to happen to me and that account would have to go through probate. And that's just, I wouldn't want that for my kids.
No, absolutely not. Um, yeah, and I think we could do a whole episode on why you want to avoid probate.
Yes, yes. And I do think that that's something that we have talked about doing later in this year. So again, you just have to keep listening.
And yeah, and we don't mean to talk about death all the time, but it is a big part of our job,
It is.
so
Unfortunately, you can't avoid it. So it's a reality that we have to face.
it is. Okay, so let's move on to a happier topic, the stock market.
Yay, because I don't know if that's much happier in 2023 either.
Well, the good news is 2023 is ending on somewhat of a positive note for the stock market, where, 6 months ago, I wasn't sure we were going to be here. Um, so in case you guys haven't been paying attention, the Fed has been raising rates, right? And they're trying to achieve a quote unquote soft landing. When you hear those words, what does that mean? It means that they're basically trying to slow down the economy enough that cools inflation without throwing us into a recession. If it sounds hard, it should. It's basically impossible. But because of that, we've experienced a really wild stock market this year, right, Holly?
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you that my client meetings at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, it's been rough, and understandably so, because Elise and I are invested in the stock market. Like, we feel the pain that you feel individually. There's nothing that you can say that we don't feel too. We also know that you have to stay invested. This is
Yep.
a long term race. This is not something that you jump in and out of. So I can tell you the last 3 to 4 weeks, though, the meetings are much calmer. The clients are calmer. We like when the market goes up just as much as you do. It makes our lives much easier. Um, and I'm optimistic that things are going to continue to head in the right directions. I think we're all tired of inflation. We all see that the groceries bill is probably doubled, if not tripled. So we can all attest that we are just as tired of this as what our clients are.
Absolutely. But I think just to bring up, inflation is a reason why you want to be invested in the stock market. And when we have clients who have a bunch of cash sitting in their bank account, and yeah, disclosure, I'm one of them. I have way too much cash right now sitting in a bank account instead of invested, and I'm working on it. But see, we're all human. But why we want you to be at least in certificates of deposit or bonds or stocks, some kind of investment, is because your cash sitting there is losing value every day it sits there because of that inflation number. And your $100 2 years ago could buy a lot more than your $100 can buy today. So that's why we really encourage you to be invested and experience, those good days and those bad days. And I think, Holly, you had a statistic we talked about a couple months ago, but if you miss like the 2 best days of the stock market, you miss over 90% of that year's return or something like that.
Yes, and I will for sure have that pulled for next time, because to me it was an eye opener of just how you can easily just think that you're going to time the market and you're just missing.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
we've had days in the past couple weeks that the market's gone up 3%. So if you missed that day,
mhm,
you missed a lot of
absolutely.
returns.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing that I just want to grill into people, because I have a couple of clients that we talk on such a regular basis right now because of the market being volatile. So anytime that market's going down and they're not feeling comfortable, they're calling and letting me know. And let me tell you, it is totally okay to call your financial advisor and express your concerns. That is what we are here for. However, they wanted to pull their money, and right when they were wanting to pull their money was when the market jumped up. Had they had pulled their money out, again, as Elise was saying, they would have missed all the returns. And so in the end, they came out ahead. But it's just sometimes you have to just put the statements away and just let the market do its thing. But I also want to just, as an asterisk, say the stock market is not for everyone. Like Elise mentioned, there are CDs, there's bonds, there's other avenues to invest. And so it really is about comfort level. But at some point, as she mentioned very clearly, you just have to get out of cash.
Yeah. And I think too, one of the great things that came out of 2023 and the Fed raising rates is bonds now, and that's that stable entity we use to balance most of our clients' portfolios. They're performing and they're paying a 5% interest rate, a 4% interest rate, which didn't exist 3 years ago. So those 60-40 accounts that are 60% stock, 40% bond, they're finally going to perform the way they should. So a lot of our lower risk clients finally have better tools at their disposal. So I think that's actually a really positive thing that's come out of all of this.
Yeah, and I think it is, again, it's very important to be meeting with your financial advisor and discussing your comfort level. I know with my clients, and Lisa, I know you're the same, we don't put time limits. We don't say you can only call us once a month.
Mhm.
Um, we say we are here as your financial advisor. We're here at your disposal. Like, we want to make sure that you're comfortable with how your money is invested. That is very, very important.
Absolutely. So, moving on to our final reflection, clients, what have you noticed over the past year? Is there like a general thing that clients have been asking you?
You know,
Curious about.
yes, it has been, and again, I think it all stems from the market being volatile, but I'm just seeing a whole lot of people wanting to get out of the stock market and into something very safe like CDs. Now, one thing that I'll say about the CDs, very similar to the bonds, they're paying rates. In fact, I looked this morning, 5.8% for 9 months.
Yeah.
Uh, so for those of you that have a lot of cash in the account, of course, we always want you to keep some for an emergency. But there's no reason not to be invested in CDs that are FDIC insured,
Yeah.
up to certain limits. So again, like, we really had to talk with our clients and get
Yeah.
some of the in the stock market, but CDs was the main thing that a lot of our clients were wanting.
I think you're spot on because we did a ton of CDs for clients as well. And that, just for our audience, that's not a money maker for us. That's just a service that we as LPL advisors offer. We don't profit at all from doing it. But the great thing about the CD is your principal investment, that money you put in, is guaranteed if you hold the CD until maturity. So for those people who are like, I have $60,000, but we're going to need it in 2 years and I really need it to be intact, that's when a CD comes into play. Because we know you don't want to throw all your money into a volatile investment account if you need it for, a remodel that you're doing, but you want to make a little bit of interest on it. So we definitely have helped a lot of people utilize that tool, and it's a great one to keep in mind for sure. And you don't have to go to the bank. You can go to your investment advisor and they help you
Yeah,
with it.
absolutely. And I will say a lot of the clients that I received off of CDs, are nonprofit organizations, and
Yep.
sometimes they tend to even overlook, like, how to invest all that's money that's sitting in cash accounts, and because
Mhm.
of CDs drawing such high interest rates, there was a lot of nonprofits that had come and talked to me just to try and get something off of the money that they've
Yeah,
been given, and they wanna be good stewards of that money. They don't wanna
absolutely.
obviously put it in the stock market that's very volatile, and I would not recommend that either. So the CD right now that's paying 5%, why not? So,
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And it's just such a great option for so many people. And if you have a larger amount, you can always do treasury bonds, which is a similar tool, but you can do much larger amounts because CDs, you're limited to 250,000 of FDIC insurance.
but I will say one thing that is neat about our, what we have access to that a lot of the banks struggle with is we can do a lot of short-term CDs.
Yeah.
So we have CDs that are 1 month, 2 month, 6 month, 9 month. Typically, if you go to a bank, you're looking at 12 months plus.
Yeah.
And to where I have a lot of clients that they want to tie up that money for maybe 3 months, and we have access to that. So it just helps them get that little bump until they're going to purchase that vehicle. And again, that's especially good for nonprofit organizations that may have an emergency pop up and they need that money soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think just in general, I think everyone's kind of watching and seeing what the economy is going to do. I know just on a broad spectrum, everyone has been struggling with how expensive life is this year.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
even though companies and the economy are doing okay, I think personally, people are using their credit cards a lot. Groceries are expensive. Gas is expensive. So I hear a lot of that too. So that's been a difficult one to swallow this year.
Yes, and I think that this is really starting to hit the small business owners, and maybe I say that because I am a small business owner. I'm seeing before people were really using their credit cards, and I think some of them have maxed them out to the point to where it's like now they're just really struggling month to month.
Yeah.
And we as business owners are starting to feel like people just can't get out. We've now been fighting this battle of inflation for so long, and grocery prices are continuing to go up, and gas is still kind of expensive. At least how much is it where you're at?
Oh, it's over, it might be over $5 right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, well, ours is not. So maybe I shouldn't complain
we
about
we we suffer from being adjacent to the Bay Area. And so even though we're Nevada, we have a lot of influence by California prices,
that. Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah.
well, we're middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and ours is like $3 a gallon. But our cost of living here, like the wages, I'm sure are a lot lower than what would be
Yeah,
expected in your area.
absolutely.
And around here, you have to drive to go anywhere. It's probably 15 miles for me to go to Walmart. And then it's 15 miles for me to take my kids to school, and then another 15 miles to pick them up, and sometimes I just wanna leave them so I can save on gas money, have some peace and quiet.
You walk home.
Exactly. So, I do think that some of this that we have been fighting for so, so long, people have went through their savings, and now here we are, it's Christmas, and there's even more extra expenses going on. And I have heard, like, both ends of the spectrum on, like, what may 2024 be like. So it's either we're going even further into a recession, or because it's a presidential election year, we're going to pull out of it because the Democrats are going to be pouring money into the economy. So,
Yeah.
at least, what do
Well,
you think?
at least we had Taylor Swift boosting the economy. Am I right?
Absolutely. We all needed that.
I was listening to a New York Times podcast this morning and she put $4 billion into our economy. So
Well, thank goodness for Miss Taylor Swift.
we'd be lost without her.
My news feed on Facebook would be very boring without her and her boyfriend filling it up all the time. I don't even know, like, why it's on my news feed, but it seems like every scroll, there's
I
another
know. I'm not a football fan, but I have been following their relationship. So,
I have been too, and I don't even know why.
well, I think that's a good place to end on our reflections. And I think we should dive into what's happening next year. We already started the topic a little bit, but let's talk about what's next for us and for business. And we're not going to predict the stock market. So if you want that,
So,
exit out right now. We're not doing that. Yeah. So I'm not making any promises because everyone will just hop on here and tell us how wrong we were 6 months from now.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Elise, 2024, what are some personal goals that you have?
Personal goals. So one of them is right here, right now. We're growing our Let's Talk Money Honey network. So we're launching our newsletter. This is our first episode for January, and this will be a monthly newsletter and podcast where we just talk about everything that you and I enjoy talking about, which is mostly finance and investing.
Yes.
But there's a lot of life in it, I think, and um, I'm just looking forward to building our network of women and anyone interested in learning more about investing. I think like our purpose behind this was you as a single mom, me as a young woman feeling really alone trying to figure out all of this on our own. And a lot of, I remember I got my first credit card on my own. I figured out how to, find a place to live on my own. And, a lot of this was you feel alone and you don't feel like there's a lot of people telling you what to do or offering guidance or help. So having that kind of to offer to young women and also successful women who are already on their journey and kicking ass but need some resources. I think we have a lot to offer and I'm excited to see where this community leads us.
Absolutely. And I think again, 2024, we have set some big goals for ourselves almost with the Let's Talk Money Honey between our webinars and the newsletters. And we have talked about going to speaking engagements, which
Yeah.
I think is something that's like way out of my element, but it's something that I think that we've just been called to do. Because there, like you mentioned, there is such a need. And I feel like when I went through my divorce, I didn't realize how much of a need that there was for women to just be an outreach to other women.
Yeah.
And to again, as you said, that there is just a sense of just being alone. And I'm not a male basher by no means. I'm not.
No.
But there are times to where just having a female perspective helps. And in fact, I can just tell you in the last few weeks, it's like I've wanted to reach out to people that can speak into my life that has went through similar situations because sometimes I just don't know how to handle it. I just want to know like how did they handle it? How can I make that right decision? And so I think from like a financial perspective and what we went through, this is the whole reason why we wanted to do this.
Yeah. And I think too, it's not that, male advisors are bad and we're good.
Right.
It's more just as a woman, I know that sometimes it's just safer talking to a woman and saying, I don't know this. I know nothing about this, but I want to. And I think sometimes it's hard to approach a male or someone in an authority figure and ask that and feel safe because, a big trigger for me, I don't want to feel stupid. I don't want to feel dumb for not knowing. And I think that's our whole purpose here is to be like this safe space where you can ask questions and learn and take your finances into your own hands because it is doable. There are plenty of people who are successfully managing their money and building their wealth, and we can teach you how to do it.
Yeah. And I will say that I don't know why, but there's not actually a lot of female financial advisors.
Yeah.
There's more and more each day, but I don't remember the percentage now of male advisors to female, but I'm wanting to say it was like 70 to 80% male advisors.
Yeah.
Like, we're Elise and I work very much in a male dominated field. And just to tell on ourselves a little bit, Elise. So when we were at the LPL financial conference, Elise and I were sitting outside of this restaurant having a drink or food or whatever it was that we were doing. And we decided there's all these people walking by. Let's figure out which ones are the financial advisors. And so we would like spot them from a mile away because there are certain looks that most financial advisors have.
Cargo shorts.
Polos, loafers, like you can just see it. And at this conference, just for the record, there was what, like 7,000 of us.
Yeah.
Um, and there was probably, I don't know, maybe 1,000 females, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Maybe if that.
well, and I will also say the majority of them, like there's very few that's under 40. Like we're getting there. We're getting, well, and I'm almost 40, so I'm really getting there.
But you look 30.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep going with that vibe. Um, and, and so Elise and I have noticed, like, we're not the typical financial advisor. We have got to hit the market that just feels like they're alone and they don't know who to turn to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to our broker dealer, LPL Financial, because they are the most diverse broker dealer in the US. So they work with people of color, um, women, all the LGBTQ community, Like they are the most diverse financial advisor group out there. So that's one reason why I love being a part of them, because like when we go to these events, we went to the women's
Yes.
conference, we went to the inclusion conference, and it's just like, there is a space for us in that community and they're encouraging that. So I love having them as like our cheerleaders for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we're here as financial advisors to be your cheerleaders, but
Yeah,
we ourselves are so thankful to have LPL Financial to be our cheerleaders and give us the resources that we need so we can be the resource to you that you need to have.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on, we're not going to super talk about the stock market, but for our clients in 2024, what are we hoping for? What are we looking for them to achieve?
So I think just the last few years have just been rough. I would just like to see just some stability and not near as much volatility, which
Mhm.
I am still probably expecting a little bit of that the first. I mean, we're going to feel that. Um, but I think if we can just continue on the path that we've been the last few weeks, it would be nice. The
Yeah,
most
and I
important
think
thing,
like, oh, no, you go.
no. I think the most important message that we can just continue, even probably in 2024, is not to time the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think stay invested, and then anyone who's, in the middle of their career, working, stable, like here's my advice. Invest 10 to 15% of your income into your 401k or some type of retirement account. Have an emergency fund, and whatever that number is, some people say you should have 6 months of your mortgage in your emergency fund. Some people say a year, but it's whatever you're comfortable with. And then any extra you can be saving and also paying off your debt, like pay off your credit cards right away, because that has the highest interest rate above anything else, above your car payment, above your mortgage. Never ever try to have a credit card debt hanging over your head. And I think just living that systematic saving mentality is going to serve you well, especially in these kind of hard years that we're experiencing.
Well, one thing that we probably don't talk about enough that we offer for our clients for free is financial planning.
Yes.
This is something that we come in with any of our clients, and the account does not have to be large.
Hmm.
And we help basically clean up your finances and tell you where your problems are. And that can be a little bit overwhelming at first because people don't necessarily want to talk about their finances. It's kind of like a dirty little secret.
Yep.
Um, but you have to realize that this is day in, day out for Elise and I. And so whatever you have to say, it's almost like going to the doctor. They hear it all. We hear it all. It's not any big deal. You might as
Yeah.
well just tell us so you can be able to get on a better path and create the future that you desire.
Yeah. And, it's important to be honest with us because, maybe you can't be honest with your family about your debt or whatever you have financially. But trust me, any story you're going to tell me, I've heard worse. And
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. That's a podcast that we need to have.
horror stories.
Yes.
But really though, and we've seen it all. We've seen people build, an extreme amount of wealth and lose it all. We've seen people start from nothing and build a beautiful life together. We see the whole spectrum, and where financial planning is so helpful is it shows you like what you're doing now, what that'll look like, and where we can tweak it. And sometimes it's not a big tweak. It's like, okay, if you guys save $200 extra a month, you're going to be in a much better place in 10 years. And it's those little things, those little guidances. Um, and we do know the rules a little bit better than you do. And we know like you can contribute for your spouse, even if they're staying at home and not working and don't have an income. Have you thought about Roth IRAs as an additional way to save? And, we just have all these tools at our disposal that most people don't realize, which is why it's so important to work with someone like Holly and I.
Right. And I think, again, just to echo what you said, it's so important to be honest. And again, as you had mentioned, you can accumulate a lot of wealth, but if you are hiding information from your financial advisor, we can't tell you where the pitfalls are going to be. And sometimes it is just one step into a pitfall that could just be completely financially devastating that could have been avoided had you just shared everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of our job, is just to make sure that you have everything in order to not only achieve your goals, but just to avoid whatever pitfalls that come your way.
Absolutely. And I think like that brings up, everything we talk about with our clients is 100% confidential. We're legally not allowed to say anything to anyone else. And we are legally fiduciaries. And I know it looks like Holly and I just walked off the street and decided to do this one day, but we actually went through a grueling licensing process, and they don't let just anyone become a financial advisor. So when you're working with us, you should know, we keep your secrets for you as well, and we know what we're doing. And even though we joke around, we take it all very seriously.
Yeah, and I will say, again, for those of you that don't know me, I'm from a very small town in Arkansas, and I don't go up to my clients and speak to them in public. They can come to me, but
Mhm.
that's very much, it's almost like we have a HIPAA
Yeah.
for the,
No, I like consider it we're the equivalent of like a financial therapist, right? So we're not if we see you in the grocery store, we're not going to say hi unless you say hi, you know?
yes. Yes, and it is to respect that privacy. There are some people that just don't want it out that they even have money at all,
Mhm.
or that they have a financial advisor. And quite honestly, it's no one's business. Your finances are your personal business, and what we discuss here, we could lose our license over if we go out and talk about it. It's something that we just take to an extreme.
Yeah,
So, what
absolutely.
you say to us, it doesn't go any further.
Yep, 100%. Okay, so wow, what a great first episode.
I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about the upcoming podcast. So the plan is that Elise and I will be doing this once a month. And it will be something that we will be sending out on the newsletter, and we will also be posting some of the tidbits on our YouTube channel too.
And, the one thing I have zero doubt of is Holly and I running out of things to talk about.
Okay, so maybe we should like prep any future clients. Like, I'd
Yeah.
like to, I love to listen, but
I
if
know,
people
and
can come tell me like whatever stories, like I can sit down and just talk about anything.
it's true. And obviously, we love talking about what we do. So there'll be plenty more where this came from. But thank you, everyone, for listening, and stay tuned for future episodes. This is our mandatory disclosure statement. Elise Levy with Legacy Wealth Planning in Reno, Nevada. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Mariner Independent Advisor Network, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Mariner Independent Advisor Network, LLC, and Legacy Wealth Planning are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Holly Henry with River Valley Wealth Management near Mena, Arkansas. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.